Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we currently have 317 tech points, which is a fair amount. We should probably consider spending that. I want to take a look at what we've got going on in our contracts. Wow, not a single progression one. This is probably done because we don't have tech for a progression mission. There's this Niobe flyby. Is that a moon of... a moon of that other, like, Mars-style planet? It might be. I'm kind of interested in doing this. Indeed. All we have to do is a flyby. So let's go ahead and accept that, and let's go in here. And I want to immediately grab ourselves... Do we get bonus tech points if this is crewed? I don't want this to be crewed. I don't think I want this to be crewed. We get 4 tech points. It's not worth 4 tech points. Okay, so we're going to load up our small sat launcher, which is kind of evolved beyond a small sat launcher. We want to get rid of any payload that it has. And we're just going to take this up sans payload, like this. Let's launch this guy, and that is going to be on the alley pad. Wonderful. And we're just going to lift this up and put this in a fairly high orbit here. I think the 500 kilometer marker is reasonable. So we can put this at a 45 degree pitch. I guess 44 is fine. And off we go. We'll see how this attitude control works. The answer is it's okay. It's not great. We start to lose attitude here as our side SRBs start to ramp down, but they're now gone, and we're in an okay attitude, is what I'm going to say. So our main SRB is going to go very shortly, and we're going to get into stage 3 here. There we go. Stage 3, or rather stage 2. This is our, like, orbital insertion stage. And we're just looking to push up our overall apoapsis quite a lot here. So I'm holding at 45 degrees. We're putting this half and half into horizontal and vertical. And once we run out of fuel here, well, we should go ahead and do our fairing stage now. Okay, and let's bring this on over to 0. Cool. So we're going to burn at 0 degrees purely horizontally at this point. So that looks fine, and we need to head, I believe, to Silero, but we should double check that. So out over this way, we can see that Silero is out over here. Yes, Niobe is a moon of Silero. Good to know. So the real question is, do we have enough DV to do a flyby of it? I suspect the answer to that to be yes. But, well, actually the answer is definitely yes, but do we have enough in this launch window? That's the real question here. So we are, of course, working on bringing that apoapsis up. We're at 281 for now. We're just targeting 500 again. It's a pretty comfortable point to target. I like it. So 3.6 minutes to the apoapsis right now. I don't think we're going to have a problem with it. I think we're going to be absolutely fine getting into orbit here on this trajectory. So that seems reasonably good. Yeah, we're at 300 right now for the apoapsis, and that's starting to go up faster and faster. So that is, this time to apoapsis is going to start increasing very soon here. This is looking pretty good. Yeah, it's going up now. This is perfect. Absolutely what we're looking for, except ideally the orbital insertion stage would actually insert us into orbit, and this would be our orbital maneuvering stage, but beggars can't be choosers. So for right now, this is fine. We're about to hit 350 kilometers on our apoapsis, and that looks good. 350 now, and that's going to start going up very quickly indeed. We are definitely approaching orbital velocity here. 375. 400 kilometers. 425. 450. 475. And very close to 500. There we go. So our periapsis is still within the atmosphere. That is not surprising. Let's head on in here and do a circularization at the apoapsis, just up to here or so. Yeah, that's good enough. So we'll go ahead and run that. That'll be 221 meters per second to put ourselves into this 500 kilometer circularized orbit. Looks good. So then we are, of course, going to escape the Drew system here and head to Silero. So that means we want to go away from the star. So in theory, a prograde burn on the dark side is the way we want to go for that. In theory. Let's just let this burn finish right on up. There we go. And let's plan a burn here. This will be a prograde burn. And this is going to be a hyperbolic trajectory. Excellent. And yeah, you can see here, that's definitely pushing us out towards Silero. How is that timing? Well, it's not telling us. We're a little off on the inclination, so that's definitely something to think about. Let's pull this back, and we can circularize somewhere around here and get our inclination correct. So that'll be fine. 1.25 kilometers per second. Deadline of 600 days to do this, too. Okay. So that is absolutely noted. I have no idea how this launch window is going to go. 600 days. That's a very tight deadline, to be honest. But we'll see. We can probably pull it off. So we're currently at 30% done with this with this Drew escape burn. It's looking pretty decent. About 700 meters per second to go. And I do hope that we have enough DV to do a flyby of Niobe. I think we do. Okay, so we're about 60% done with the burn now. 40 seconds left in it. Looks good. So an inclination change would be fine, but I want to see if we actually need one. I would prefer not to do one if we don't have to. Okay, so this escape burn is done now. So we are now on this orbit, and we just want to warp to the escape point. And off we go. Okay, I want to warp a little further than this. There we go. So we're now in the sphere of influence of Juno. So with Silero as our target, the real question is, what would it look like if we were to burn sometime around here and look for an encounter out over this way? Actually, that's quasi-interesting in terms of that timing. Maybe less interesting than I thought. So we need to get a little bit of radial out over here. It's actually not too bad in terms of the radial. So that would be where it would be, but we would be here. This is really bad timing. Hang on. That's really bad timing. Yeah. This is a bad launch window. I'm not shocked about that. That means we're going to have to take an orbit, and that's going to eat up a lot of time here. Well, let's just warp around, and we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that's a lot of time. Honestly, I don't think we can do this with this launch window. This is going to be in 1.59 years. I don't think it's even possible with this particular launch window. So, I mean, we could definitely get the approach here, right? There's no doubt about it. We could definitely get the approach. But that deadline is so tight. You have to launch in a good launch window for it. And this was not a good launch window. So, what do we want to do about it? Well, we've got 184 days to get there. So we could burn a lot of Delta V and do it that way. So if we were to be out over here, we'd have to burn a crazy amount of Delta V to get there, I think. It would be a lot of Delta V for sure, but we could dial this in a bit. That was an encounter there. But even that's too far away. So, yeah, we needed to do this sort of a burn before doing that warp. So I guess what we need to do is revert this back and relaunch it. Yeah, we're going to have to relaunch this, and let's see if we can get a better connection here. This is really bad timing, but I'm wondering if we head forward here. Is this from liftoff or from when we accept it? It's from when we accept it. Okay, that's gross. That's noted. I don't want to undo an exit. I just want to retry this. Okay, so that's noted. That's awkward. I'm not sure I like that, to be honest. I feel like these deadlines are a little too tight, if that's the way it is. From liftoff, I can understand it. From acceptance, though, ooh, okay. Well, let's throttle this up, and let's get up again. So we're going to have to head back into orbit here. And this will be absolutely fine. We'll just punch this right on up. Side boosters are going to be falling off now. Next is going to be the main booster, of course, which is going to be right about now. And now we're going to have this guy, and we're at about 40 kilometers. I want to ditch this at the fairing at about 50. Okay, there we go. So that's going to get us a little bit further on this stage here, which should be absolutely fine. And now the question is, how can we get to Niobe a little bit easier, right? Well, let's just continue to punch our way into orbit, and we'll see once we manage to get into orbit. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get there, no doubt about that. We're going to be burning this stage for a while. We can see we definitely went a little higher on that apoapsis. So that was a little bit more efficient of an ascent, and that was honestly just because we ditched that fairing that little bit earlier. We should extend these solar panels. But yeah, we can't do the orbital phasing technique to get there within the deadline. The deadline is the problem there. So we're going to have to burn extra DV to do it. Now, we could definitely do some fancy maneuver plans, and I think that's what we're going to have to do here. So we're going to bring this up to 330 kilometers. We're just bringing that up all the way to 500 again. We just want to put ourselves into the same orbit, and then I'm going to make a save here that we can revert to so we don't have to go back through that launch again if we don't want to. I don't think we'll want to, so that'll be fine. We'll just take this up to 350 very shortly. And we're in surface mode right now. Let's hop into orbital. There we go. We can see we need a fair amount of additional speed to get up to orbital velocity, but that is fine. Our apoapsis is pushing up over 360 kilometers now. And we're just waiting for that to get up to 500. No problem whatsoever. As this lateral velocity burns, we are definitely making some progress there. Almost up to 400 on the apoapsis, and it's going to start going much, much, much faster now as we approach orbital velocity. 410, 425, 430, almost up to 450. Now we're starting to see that acceleration. 475 and a little bit more. 500. Okay, that looks good. So now we're going to circularize at the apoapsis, and that is just going to be a burn about like this. It doesn't really matter all that much as long as we're roughly circularized. So let's go ahead and do that. 270 meters per second. No problem whatsoever. We will fast forward through it. Cool. Now, we're going to have to get to Silero very fast here. Very, very fast. And we're in a bad transfer window, which, as far as I know, there's not a good way to check what your transfer window is in the map when you're looking at the contracts. As far as I'm aware. So you can see that Silero is down over here right now. So I am wondering, what does it look like if we burn at the Terminator here? And we come out this direction. What's that going to look like for us? Okay, that's definitely noted. So if we bring this back out like so, and we burn at this Terminator, what does that look like? Well now, that's interesting. Okay, so that is very, very interesting. We'll select Silero here and set Silero as our target. So this is going to be in 2.35 days. I don't think that's accurate. Okay. So that gets us a pretty close approach out over here. In fact, that's an encounter. So we're able to dial that in a bit. It's a pretty big encounter. It will need a braking burn, but honestly, this is not that much DV. So let's go ahead and do this. We're going to do a more direct transfer. So that sounds good. This is going to be a fairly lengthy burn, of course, so we're going to warp through that. And then we're going to need to do some orbital maneuvers at Silero. All we need is a flyby of Niobe. I want to take a look at what... select Silero, please. I want to take a look at what this is going to look like and where Niobe actually is. Okay, so Niobe is fairly... Okay, we're probably going to want to alter this. Do some corrective burning. Niobe appears to be fairly equatorial and low inclination. Let's let this burn finish, and then I want to probably make a couple of slight alterations. So as we go in, we want to do an inclination change. Okay, so this is where we are right now. We did not nail this, it looks like. Well, let's just warp out of the sphere of influence here. Okay, I want to warp a little bit further than this. So let's get into the Juno sphere of influence. From here, what I want to do is at the targets... The descending nodes up here. Okay, so I want to do a burn around here. Okay. So a small corrective burn, something kind of like that. Let's go ahead and execute that and see how that goes. We did not get the burn we expected out of that previous burn. I'm not going to warp through this. We're just going to do this naturally. Okay, so it's going to be something along the lines of that. And that is putting us into a good orbit here. Or rather, it's getting us an encounter, in theory. I do not see the encounter, but we're definitely claiming to have an encounter. Okay, so I want to go to the descending node here. And yeah, that's the encounter there. This is after this encounter, isn't it? It is. We want to be on this orbit at the descending node. Okay. So once here, I want to change around our inclination just a smidge to be a bit more equatorial. This isn't going to be perfect, but it's pretty close. So that's only 16.2 meters per second. Go ahead and do that. So we're going to warp around to here. 16.2 meters per second to raise that up quite a lot. So we're still going to be pretty far out, and that's absolutely understood, but this is much more equatorial now. So we're still going to need a braking burn, a fairly hefty one, but let's warp in over this way. Get ourselves nice and close to this encounter. There we go, and let's get into the sphere of influence. Okay, so now we are in the Silero sphere of influence. So at this point, what I want to do is at the periapsis, I want to retrograde, and this is going to be a pretty hefty braking burn, a few hundred meters per second for sure. Yep, this is expected. Okay, so something along the lines of that. That's 574. How much do we have? 3.7 kilometers. Okay, that's not bad. So, this is still a pretty big encapsulation of this orbit. So, what I want to do is I want to adjust this a little bit. I want to bring this guy down to within perhaps like 10 megameters. About like that. That's still going to encapsulate this orbit quite a lot. So that's only 623 meters per second. I think that's reasonable. Let's go ahead and run that. So we'll drop that right on down. And then we're going to drop our apoapsis and circularize this. And I would like to set Niobe as our target here. So we can see, yeah, we're in basically the correct inclination. It's not perfect, but it's pretty close. Yeah, it should be close enough. So we've still got another 15 seconds left on this braking burn. And we're going to come to the periapsis and circularize this again. So that'll be a few hundred more meters per second. That is absolutely understood. So we drop this guy right on down. Perfect. And at the periapsis, I want to do a retrograde burn, bringing this down to be circularized at 10 megameters. So something like this will give us a good way to interact with Niobe. Do it. So in we come. Niobe is retrograde to us, so that is definitely noted. Because we're going this way, and Niobe is going this way. But we just need to fly by. It's not a big deal. So I don't mind it being retrograde. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to find ourselves an encounter. So a retrograde encounter over, a retrograde burn rather, over here is not the right timing. However, that's a good timing right there. That gets us the encounter we're looking for, and in theory anyway. No, we shouldn't have a maneuver here. That gets us an encounter maybe. Okay, we can dial it in a little bit with some radial, but timing would really be the way to do that. So where is our closest approach info? 24 kilometers. I mean, that should be good enough. So this is going to be 75.9 meters per second. Go ahead and do it. Wonderful. And we're going to have like 1.23 kilometers per second. This is because we're going the opposite direction, but we just need to fly by. So this is fine. Okay. So Niobe's out over here right now. Silero is, of course, right here. Let's go ahead and warp towards this. So this is going to be in 13 hours. Yep, let's warp up over this way and get a lot closer here. So we're going to be retrograde. It's going to be an interesting flyby for sure. Apparently, we are having a hard time warping here because this is the next position. Okay. Well, let's just manually warp it. And I want to see where this closest approach will be. 1.75 hours. Okay. So 1.5, 1.2, 40 minutes, 30, 20. Okay. I'm popping us into normal speed for right now. I'm still not entirely sure where this encounter is going to be. This thing is very, very small, and it has very minute gravity. So we're just barely dipping in here, although we're going to be 24 kilometers away. We're 10 minutes out right now. 8 minutes. 5. Okay. Popping us out of that for right now, I want to know where Niobe is. Okay, it's currently 190 kilometers that way. It's still too small to see at 190 kilometer distance. Okay, so that's definitely very, very small. We're 2 minutes away from our closest approach here. Now 70 seconds. Okay, so we are in the sphere of influence of Niobe right now. Beautiful. It's down here. We can barely see it. The sun is lighting the other side, but it's definitely some sort of a rock. No doubt about that. Let's just allow ourselves to get to our closest point, which should be about 24 kilometers. Yeah, this is definitely a, captured asteroid. Cool. Now, the gravity of this is not going to be very much. We could enter orbit, but there's no actual point. We don't have a contract for doing that, so we're not going to do that. But yeah, that's definitely a captured asteroid. It's a rock. No doubt about that. So lesson learned on the way that the contract timings work. That's for sure. We're starting to get further away now, so let's go ahead and end this flight, and we're just going to destroy that craft. No point in keeping it around. Excellent. We now have a rescue mission available, but we'll see what else we want to get done here. Luna Impactor is maybe... Ooh, that's a pretty good Silero orbit. We'll maybe see about doing that. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Atala, Ali Lee, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.